Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving straight into what is literally one of the most bizarre, yet kind of fascinating case studies drawn from our source material. We're going to be looking at a man named Hank. Now, on the surface, Hank is just your totally average, ordinary guy. But as you'll see, a closer look at a recent conversation with his friend reveals a startling dietary anomaly that completely altered his physical and social behavior. We're treating this as a totally serious investigation into cause, effect, and the really strange places the human mind and stomach can take us.
So I want you to think about your own social circle for a second. Have you ever looked across the room and noticed a friend acting exactly like a marsupial? It sounds completely absurd, right? You'd probably just brush it off, think your imagination is playing tricks on you. But in the documentation we're analyzing today, this isn't just a fleeting thought. It's a documented observation that triggers a deep dive into a wildly unprecedented behavioral shift. And this brings us to the exact moment the whole phenomenon is recognized. His friend literally just says, "Hey, Hank, you remind me of something. I just can't quite put my finger on what it is. Maybe a koala?" And what's absolutely amazing here isn't just that the friend made this bizarre observation, it's that Hank immediately confirms it. He actually asks, "How did you know that?" His friend successfully identified this highly specific, undeniable koala-esque aura radiating right off the guy.
When his friend presses him on whether he actually behaves like a koala, Hank's response is this astonishingly casual confession. He just says, "Sure, it's from the eucalyptus." He doesn't deny it. He doesn't act embarrassed at all. Instead, he directly attributes this profound shift in his entire persona to a very specific botanical intake. So the absolutely crucial point here is that Hank is fully self-aware. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he knows exactly what caused it.
Okay, let's dive into this process. How does a human safely or maybe unsafely transition into a koala state? Based on our source text, it follows a very specific four-step progression. Step 1, Hank just happens to read something about the lifestyle of koalas. Seems like an innocent enough intellectual pursuit, right? Well, it triggers step 2. He suddenly develops this intense, unimaginable craving for eucalyptus. Step 3 is the action phase, where he consumes an uncounted, massive amount of it. And finally, step 4, the outward manifestation, where he actually begins to physically and socially exhibit koala behavior. Section 1, the catalyst, eucalyptus overload. Let's establish a clinical framework for what Hank is actually experiencing here. In the source material, Hank himself proposes a term for his condition. We'll define it as eucalyptus shock. It's basically a hypothesized state resulting from the continuous, entirely uncounted consumption of eucalyptus. It represents crossing a threshold, where the sheer volume of the plant material literally begins to override standard human behavioral protocols. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the total lack of boundaries. When Hank's friend asks exactly how much eucalyptus he consumed, Hank just admits, "At some point I stopped counting. It just kept going." I mean, wow. He was completely consumed by the craving. There was no moderation, no tracking his diet, just an endless, unchecked intake of eucalyptus leaves. It really highlights the overpowering nature of the trigger he experienced.
This naturally prompts a pretty critical question from the observer. Was this intentional? Hank's friend asks him directly, was this some sort of self-experiment? It's a great logical question. The friend is trying to figure out if Hank is playing mad scientist, testing the limits of human biology, or if he's simply the victim of an uncontrollable, bizarre compulsion that totally hijacked his free will.
Section 2, Trend versus Reincarnation.
So let's impartially map out these competing hypotheses. On side A, we have Koala-ing, which posits that this is a voluntary emerging social trend. And over on side B, we have the reincarnation theory, suggesting that Hank's behavior isn't voluntary at all, but rather the surfacing of a past life where he was, quite literally, a koala. These are the two avenues of logic presented in the text, and we're going to look at the merits of both. Let's look closely at side A first, Koala-ing. His friend initially challenges Hank, asking for one good reason why anyone would voluntarily behave like a koala without the excuse of the eucalyptus. But then a realization strikes. Could koala-ing become a new lifestyle trend? The idea here is that, hey, maybe nobody has thought of it yet. Maybe adopting the slow, eucalyptus-chewing demeanor of a koala might actually be a lifestyle choice just waiting to catch on. And this quote perfectly captures that pivot. The friend goes from total skepticism to open-minded acceptance in a matter of seconds. "Give me one good reason why anyone would voluntarily behave like a koala," he says. Then, almost immediately, although, come to think of it, why not? Might not even be such a bad idea. It's wild how quickly an absurd dietary anomaly can be rationalized as a potential cultural movement.
But side B makes a surprisingly compelling case too. Hank himself brings up the idea that he might have been a koala in a previous life, and this brilliantly illustrates why his friend actually agrees. Look at the factors here. The incident was sparked merely by reading about koalas. It resulted in sudden, intense cravings and truly bizarre physical behaviors. Even though the friend admits he isn't a big believer in reincarnation, he concludes that in Hank's case, it's actually the most plausible explanation for his actions.
Section 3. The aftermath and next steps. Regardless of whether it's a hot new trend or past life regression, biological reality definitely has to set in at some point. Hank's friend provides this absolutely crucial, grounding piece of advice. Still, you should probably cut back on the eucalyptus. I don't think the human body can handle too much of it. It's a very necessary intervention. It reminds us that while the mind might want to be a koala, the human digestive system is simply not built to process infinite volumes of eucalyptus leaves. Fortunately, Hank accepts this limitation. He draws a firm boundary, stating on the record, "This one experience is more than enough for me." The intense cravings, the behavioral changes, the massive shock to his system. He recognizes that this self-experiment, whether it was intentional or deeply spiritual, has reached its natural, safe conclusion. The active phase of the koala phenomenon is, for sure, officially over.
Let's move to and see how this builds into a highly structured action plan for the future. Hank doesn't just walk away. He takes organized steps. Step 1. Halt the excessive eucalyptus intake to protect his very human body. Step 2. He announces he's going to do some research to see if anyone else out there has had similar experiences. And step 3, taking his friend's advice, he plans to launch a dedicated support group.
And here is the incredibly logical yet entirely hilarious endpoint of our source material. The proposed support group is officially titled The Reincarnated Koalas. Hank fully embraces the whole concept. It completely transforms a bizarre, isolated dietary incident into the foundation of a highly specific, niche community. He even promises to keep his friend updated on the group's progress. Which leaves us with this final thought to ponder from today's explainer. Look at your own unexplainable habits for a minute. Those sudden, strange cravings you get right after reading a random article. Could you too be harboring a past life just waiting to be triggered? And if so, is it time for you to start looking up the Reincarnated Koala Support Group? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating case study with me. And hey, never underestimate the power of a little eucalyptus.